Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Thoughts at 3 live online assembly. My name is Ellie, and I am part of the schools team at Southampton City Mission. Usually, we will be going into schools at this time to do question of faith days or assemblies. Obviously, we can't be doing that at the moment, so that is why we are coming to you live on Facebook and YouTube. If you do want to watch our assemblies, maybe this is the first one you've seen, then make sure you are liking and following and subscribing to all of our social media, which you can see going along the bottom there. And if you are watching live today, then make sure you join in with the live chat. I would love to know who is watching, maybe where you know us from, if we've met you in one of the schools in Southampton before. And also, I want to know any questions you might have on today's topic, which is all to do with belonging. So make sure you're joining in with the comments if you are watching live. I might even get to do a shout out if you tell me who is watching. I would actually like to do a shout out straight away, and that is to say a big happy birthday to Matt Gwynn. I'm sure lots of you know Matt. He does the assemblies. He's part of the schools team with SEM, and it's his birthday today. So I don't know if he's watching, but I'm sure he's having a lovely day. And if you see him in tomorrow's assembly, make sure you don't forget to say happy birthday to him as well. So what is Thoughts at 3? Well, like I said, it's an online assembly where we will be introducing a topic for the day, answering any of your questions or some of those frequently asked questions that we hear in schools when we do this topic. And then we will also be ending the session with a prayer, just like we would in schools. So this is my question for you to start thinking about today, which is, where do you belong? If you're watching with anyone else, maybe have a chat to them, or you could put your comments in the answers. But I want you to think about, where do you belong? Is there somewhere, maybe some place or some group that you feel like you belong? Maybe I'll remind you of some of those as I chat about mine. So growing up, I was part of quite a lot of different groups. I was in some music groups because I used to play the clarinet. I sometimes play it now, but not as much as I should. So I was belonging to a wind band and an orchestra. I was even in a marching band for a while. And I even had to go at playing the cymbals when I wasn't on the clarinet. So I felt like I belonged to lots of those groups. I also belonged to a dance group and a trampolining club. What about you? Where do you belong? Well, if you saw the little still image for this video, you would see that I also used to belong to a group that wore one of these. This was my brownie sash. And I'm sure lots of you might be part of Rainbows, Brownies, Guides, or maybe Cubs, Beavers, or Scouts and belong to one of those groups as well. Well, when I was a brownie, I felt like I was part of that group, and we used to collect badges, which I think they still do today. So you can see here, this sash with some of the badges kind of show the group that I belong to. I got stitched on the top there. First Claygate, that was the pack or the group that I belonged to from Claygate in Surrey. It showed that I was part of this group within my brownie unit. I can't actually remember what that was. I think it was elves or imps or something. It showed I used to be a rainbow too, and then all the different badges for the different things I did when I belonged to that group. But you know, that wasn't the only group that I was a part of. And maybe you're thinking right now, well, I don't do any clubs, especially at the moment as we're in lockdown. I feel like I don't belong anywhere. But I bet you are still part of a school or were part of a school. And there's something special that we do in schools in England here, which I think really helps us feel like we belong. And that is that we wear a uniform. I know we see lots of different uniforms, red, blues, greens, yellows, when we visit schools all over the city. And I've actually got with me as well my school uniform jumper from when I went to secondary school. And you can see again, we've got a logo on there. This was from Esher High, where I went. And that showed people that I belonged, I was part, I attended that school. I even have another badge on here which says I belonged to part of the senior prefect team. So sometimes in the way we look, we can tell that we belong to a particular group. I can see some comments coming in here. Apparently, this is my dad. He says that when I was in a brownie, I was a leprechaun. I think that must have been the leprechaun badge showing where I belong, which group I was in. I'm impressed you remember that because I don't think I did. So actually, we can belong to lots of different groups, but maybe it's not even a club or even a school. Maybe you feel most at home and like you most belong to your family. I feel like I belong to a brilliant family, probably the best family, but I think lots of people would say that about their own. So growing up, I belonged to the Curtis family. There was me, my sister, my mum and my dad. Curtis was our surname. That's another sign that we were kind of related and belonged together. But actually, as I've got older, my family has grown. From the Curtis side, I've got lots of cousins and they've grown up and they've started having children. But then I actually got married and I joined the cousins family. And so now I belong to them as well. And we are all united with this extra group or extra family. But you know, for Christians, we actually believe that we all belong to a family as well. We belong to God's family, the church. Christians believe that we are all one big family who belong to the family of God. Now, when I talk about the church, and you might have seen this in one of the previous assemblies we did about special places a few weeks back, I'm not just talking about the building. For Christians, church is also to do with the people. In fact, it's more about the people than the actual building. And that's really relevant now because actually in this lockdown, church buildings are closed. We're not allowed to go and meet there. But I know I still feel a part of the church, a part of my Christian family, because we are all related through God. We all have that same common belief in Jesus who died and rose again. And for me, the people that I go to church with, or even meet with online, which we're doing at the moment, they are my church family. We can read about in the Bible how actually God is our Father and how we are all adopted to be his children. There's a Bible verse in 1 John chapter 3, verse 1, which says, "See how very much our Father loves us, for he calls us his children, and that is what we are." So I know that I feel like a child of God, and that means that I have this huge family that I belong to, where I've got all my Christian brothers and sisters, as well as my one actual sister here on earth. So that's what Christians believe when we talk about belonging, that we all belong to this one big family of God. We're going to have a go looking at some questions now. So if you do have any questions about belonging or about anything I've said, make sure you comment them in the live chat. But I'm going to answer some of those frequently asked questions, those FAQs that we normally get when we go into schools. And the first one is this. Do you have to go to church to be a Christian? Do you know, we get asked that question quite a lot, actually. And the basic answer is no. You do not have to go to church to be a Christian. But I would say that it does help. You see, for Christians, church isn't just about going every Sunday, being there for a couple of hours, saying some prayers, reading the Bible, listening to somebody talk, and then going home again. It's about much more than that. You see, it's about the fellowship. Fellowship is just a fancy word for friendship, meeting with other people, coming together. And it means that you're not doing it alone. Fellowship is about supporting each other. And so as we try living our lives following Jesus, we can have friends who can support us as we do that. In fact, there's another Bible verse that talks about, "For where 2 or 3 gather together as my followers, I am there among them." That is something Jesus said, which you can read in the book of Matthew, chapter 18, verse 20. "Where 2 or 3 gather together as my followers, I am there among them." So church doesn't matter if it's a different place or a different building, or even no building at all. I know some Christians who meet together in a school or meet in a living room. In fact, there are some countries in the world where it's illegal to be a Christian, and so they meet in secret. But it doesn't matter where you go. Being a Christian is about believing in Jesus, choosing to follow him, and then encouraging other people to believe the same. So I know that for me, my church, who has an online service just like this assembly, I'm still gathered together with other people. We can chat to them, even if it's over the internet, and that is still church for me. So no, you don't have to go to church to be a Christian, but it certainly does help and benefit if you are trying to follow Jesus. Okay, I'm going to have a look at a next question we have here, which says, how do you become a Christian? We've talked about Christianity quite a lot in these assemblies, and if you've ever met us in school, you know that we are a Christian charity. Southampton City Mission serve the church to serve the city, and we are all Christians. But how do you become a Christian? Well, let me start by explaining what you don't have to do. What's not going to make you a Christian? Did you know that being a Christian is nothing to do with where you were born? Being born in England does not make you a Christian. It's also got nothing to do with if your family are. Just because your parents or somebody else in your family might be a Christian, that doesn't make you a Christian either. It's got nothing to do with how much you read the Bible or how much Bible you know. It's also got nothing to do with whether you've been baptised or not. No, being a Christian is just about a heart decision. And there's actually just a simple prayer that you can say to become a Christian. If you believe in Jesus and you want to choose to follow him, then you can become a Christian. You have to say a prayer, which is just talking to God, could be out loud or could be in your head, and you have to say sorry. Say sorry to God for the mistakes you know you've made and ask him to forgive you. And then say in your heart, you want to follow Jesus for the rest of your life. Amen. It really is that simple. Now, what I would say is that you don't always have to say it just once. I've been a Christian many, many years now, and I have said that prayer lots of times because I sometimes like to remind myself and reaffirm that decision that I am choosing to follow Jesus every day. Now, if you do think you want to become a Christian, what I would say is, yes, it is that simple. If that's the decision you want to make in your heart and you want to say that prayer, fantastic. But like I mentioned earlier, you shouldn't have to do that alone. So if you don't go to a church, maybe see if you can find someone else who is a Christian that you can talk to about that. Maybe even if you think there's nobody you can talk to, then get in touch with us. You could always send us an email and we would love to chat to you more about becoming a Christian and maybe put you in contact with some great people near where you live as to how you can kind of continue on that journey of choosing to follow Jesus. So I'm going to have a little look at the comments. I can see we've got somebody else wishing Matt a happy birthday as well. I'm sure he will be watching this assembly back, or we can mention it again to him tomorrow. But for now, we've come to the part of our assembly where we like to say a prayer. So I'm going to say a prayer now, and it's optional. That means you don't have to do your prayer time now. You don't have to pray at all. But maybe you want to just spend a quiet moment thinking about the things we've talked about. Could you maybe think about what it is to be a Christian? Is there somewhere where you belong, a group, or with your family? Or maybe is it a case that you would love to belong to God, to Team Jesus, choosing to follow him as well? If you do want to join in with my prayer though, all you have to do is listen to the words and say Amen at the end, because Amen just means I agree. So let's spend some time in prayer now. Dear God, thank you that you are our loving Father and we can all be a part of your family. Thank you that there are places and people in this world that help us feel welcomed and to help us feel like we belong. I pray that you would be with anyone who feels like they don't belong or feels left out or lonely at this time. Help them to know that they will always belong to your family and that you will always love them no matter what. If you would like to agree, you can say Amen. So I want to say thank you everyone for watching. If you are watching this at a later date and not live, then still join in the conversation. Comment maybe where you belong, any groups or teams that you feel a part of. We would love to see that. And of course, we want to remind you to watch tomorrow for our next Thoughts at 3. Matt will be back, that is Thursday the 14th of May at 3 p.m, where he will be discussing telling others, talking about sharing Jesus or sharing your beliefs with other people. So if you have any questions on that topic, make sure you comment them on the video, and I'm sure Matt will try and answer as many of those questions in tomorrow's Thoughts at 3, as many as he can. For now though, I want to say have a great rest of your afternoon and evening. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you again tomorrow. Goodbye.